From crits to crypto, this former sharpshooter's leveled up and evolved. With a master ball mindset and a mega stone strategy, he planted the rare seed that bloomed into Glitter Cloud Solutions, a consultancy super effective against the staleness of GameFi. He's got a swagger of a Salamence and the business buffs of Blissey. It's the king of the kill streak. It's Dub.
Jesus Christ. Live from the top of the Burj Khalifa. I'm about to base jump off this thing. It's a great freaking life we're living. Dubai's been great. Everything's going good. Games are going good. It's awesome talking about gaming with everyone. I feel like everyone's got something coming out next month, so it's going to be hot. And we just got out a level up in Vegas, too, and Wildcard with the booth was a freaking blast, man. It was awesome to see. So bunch of good stuff coming. Let's have a good show.
What a dog Dub is, dude. Being willing to fly Vegas to Dubai. My man never takes a rest. Good work out there, dude. We love you, bud. I think that's also the only intro where I'm gonna mention anything that's not a 151 Pokemon, because I don't know what the fuck those are, dude. A Blissey? What the fuck is a Blissey? I'm pretty sure I pranked myself, but I googled it. I think it exists. Anyway, when the metaverse needs muscle and momentum, a legend emerges, forged in Smash tournaments and leveled up in Web3 war zones. With a horn for his hype and hooves built for scaling, this ox doesn't sleep. He stampedes. Call it fate, call it evolution, but every region calls him the same. It's Wills, the Ox, Spangler.
Yo, what's up, guys? Grateful to not be in the heat. Holy shit, it's been the coldest it's been here in California in a while, and I'm loving it.
God bless, dude. The Ox gotta cool himself down in the non-existent ponds of Los Angeles. God bless. Good luck. Up next, this isn't any flame trainer. This is the Charizard of Capital, soaring over spreadsheets and torching timelines to over-deliver. He's juggling budgets like Voltorbs and with the energy of a Magmar on max caffeine, plus with Glitter Cloud Solutions as his guiding Ninetales and his latest side quest, sparking flames over on Farcade. This man is a blaze that you just can't bottle. He'll melt your motherboards and still have plenty of PP left to play. It's the incendiary innovator, the human flamethrower himself. It's Tony V.
Let's go, boys! Stoked to be here. Stoked that Dub's having fun in Dubai. Stoked that everyone's launching games, and stoked to talk about Pokemon. Had a fun time this morning. We had a bunch of people tune in and watch people play Pirate Nation PvP this morning. That was one of the dopest things I've seen in a while. And yeah, I'm just having a blast, man. We're living out in this Web3 world, and I'm excited to chat more.
Hey, where did they watch that game, by the way?
Oh, it was on Thousands.tv.
That's right, it was.
Wow, incredibly subtle plug. That's how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. I think that was exhibition number 12 or something. Congrats on getting that out, guys.
EX12.
Response seemed wonderful. I can't believe this is why we need Jerry. This is why Jerry's the lifeblood of Gamified. Zero PP jokes. Zero. No, not a single person willing to step up to the plate. Does anybody remember that in Pokemon? Why is it called PP? It was like how many moves you were allowed to, how many times you were allowed to use like Flame Wheel or whatever. It was like 15 PP. Is that a thing that stands for something?
Yeah, of course it's a thing. It's like, was it PowerPoints or something? I don't even know what it. I remember SP, PP. There was a couple of them. Which one was PP? Now I'm gonna have to look it up.
It's PowerPoints, and don't forget, we're always better without Jerry.
Up next, from Victory Road to Virtual Vaults, this battle-tested trainer brought home 4 titles in the Fortnite League, earning his place amongst the real-world Elite Four. His training regimen is tougher than a Dragonite scales, and now he's pivoted from power-ups to pixel profits, mastering NFT placement at Magic Eden like it's a Pokemart. He's got the badges, the brains, and the battle passes. It's Knock.
All right, Sam, that was worth it. That was worth it. I'm actually in the middle of farming the Elite Four. I'm playing a Fire Red ROM, so that is perfect timing. Also, speaking of red, here's a not-so-subtle plug. Magic Eden now supports Avalanche. Go check it out.
God bless. Excited to hear the news. Congrats. Oh, Spang, I'll give you an equally subtle plug.
I was just.
It's about time.
I know.
Yeah, thanks, Knock. Finally, Jesus Christ. You've heard the legends, whispers in the tall grass of a trainer whose bag overfloweth not just with Pokeballs, but with skate deck, VHS tapes, vintage vinyls, and TCG treasures too rare to list. He doesn't just catch them all, he builds the boxes they come in. He's constructed a full Elite Four lineup of legendary products, each more evolved than the last, with Parallel, Sanctuary, Colony, and Wayfinder. Some trainers chase badges, but others create leagues. It's the Collector King, the architect of all arenas. It's Koji.
What's up, guys? Yeah, I've realized hearing all this Dubai stuff that like the amount of like mental dissonance you need to have be a founder is high. I just feel like every conference that I'm not at is completely useless. Like I've convinced myself like that no one needs to be there. I don't understand why anyone's there because obviously I'm not there. But hopefully I see you at the next one.
Dude, I'm so proud of you for finally having as much narcissism as I knew you could have one day. Every day I woke up and I said, one day he'll get there. And it sounds like we're quick approaching the threshold. Up next, this trainer has logged the first all canine compendium, raising each one like family with over 300 unique wolves. Having evolved far beyond the average Pokedex with Wolf in one hand and Wolves Dow in the other, he's crafting revolutionary products while rallying peerless pooches into perfectly synchronized strike teams. He's built like an Arcanine, but where others chase coins, this man chases consistency, ensuring his wolf pack's got the right skills, trained for the battles that lie ahead, and always ready to evolve. It's time to face the fur, meet the master. It's the curator of canines, the patron of pooches. It's Peyton Okalani Kapovainu.
Yo, what's up? What's up, guys? I'm that Pokemon trainer that just captures all wolf Pokemon and then, just gets ripped at the next gym. But I'm all on theme.
When you find out normal type doesn't work against rock and you're just absolutely effed until you level like 74 levels above what the trainer's at. Yeah, I've been there. I remember. Every few decades, an Ash Ketchum emerges who reshapes the very fabric of the league. Some tame dragons, other bend time, but this one rewrote the fundamentals of fun. Deep within the archives of game dev fame, there's one name etched in golden font and glowing in pixels, a trainer who's done it all, and now he's tossed his Game Shark into a new machine. This patriarch of programming has set his sights on the Web3 region, launching Wildcard, a real-time strategy arena where only the bold survive and every battle is broadcast live to the multiverse on thousands.tv. You might have heard of it a couple of minutes ago. Plus, this trainer's handing out rare candies to the crowd with a 100% community-owned token drop. So prep your potions, sync your strategy, and listen closely. For the Prince of Pixels, the Bard of Bites, the Prometheus of Play, it's Paul Bedner.
And I am also the Pokemon called Playzorion, according to ChatGPT, which says, as my Pokedex entry, that Playzorion is said to have emerged from the fusion of creativity and code. With a mind that sees possibilities in every system, it bends probability and constructs realities. It communicates through shimmering pulses of data and sparks innovation wherever it roams. My AT is 65. My SP is speed is 110 and doesn't give me a PP. I don't have a PP. I don't know. But anyway, I look kind of like Mewtwo. You can check it out. It's on the thread.
Dude, Playzorion is really not ChatGPT's best work. That's a
No,
wild
it's
name.
terrible. Absolutely terrible. But I'm just going to go with it.
We're just gonna ignore that Paul said he didn't have a PP.
That's what it says here.
It's because skills have PP. It's like each skill has its own amount of PP that can be spent. I can't do this with
Thank you for reminding us that.
Last but not least, this man is what happens when Charmander level Charm meets Dragonair tier Drip. Weighing in at a sleek 2.4 pounds, this trailblazing tail flinger is slithering straight to stardom. So clap your claws and salute the slinky serpent of the spotlight, the little lizard legend. It's Lambs.
GM, what is good, everyone? And yeah, all this talk of Pokemon definitely makes me want to download some ROMs. So now I want to know what Nock's playing and give me some ROM recommendations. We got to get some rerun some of these old school ones. I don't want to play any of the new versions. But yeah, good to be here. Can't wait to get into this one because I feel like this was a hot topic on the timeline of is it all bullshit or is it actually something interesting with Pokemon and Sui?
I just need to live in a house with Knock for like a full week and see where the fuck he gets all this time. And Lems, I'm adding you to the list too, because Jesus, the last thing I need is somebody to give me recommendations of 20-year-old games I should be playing. For the love of God, prepare. Jesus, you threw me off with that one. Prepare to ascend to the peak of innovation with Avalanche, the official blockchain of Gamified. With possibilities as high as the Himalayas, Avalanche allows you to own a digital Everest where your community plants its flag and you own your own token, fuels the innovation, and the climb. So whether you're a seasoned Sherpa or a curious climber, come explore with Avalanche, and the opportunities never stop. Discover a world where the fun never stops and the innovation snowballs. Sorry, I went a little out of order there. Up next, these aren't your run-of-the-mill developers. These are architects of growth, building a better landscape for Web3 gaming. It's Game 7, the official infrastructure of Gamified. They've got this incredible toolkit with Summon, a super-powered magnet that keeps players hooked. Hyperplay, your fast lane into Web3 gaming, making it a breeze to discover and dive into new games. Shout out to Game 7, the infrastructure innovators making it all come together. And the gates are open. You can now venture into Cosmos, teaming with Discovery. Chart unexplored sectors of space-time, confront cosmic anomalies in pulse-pounding expeditions, and witness the evolution of photorealistic rendering that'll redefine your perceptions of the metaverse. To acquire your access key and embark on this interstellar journey, plot a course for the Star Atlas Discord and join the fleet of the official game of Gamified. All right, we're jumping in, not quite with Pokemon, okay? It's a little bit of a setup. I gotta lead into it. I'm sorry, guys. What's the word for Counter-Strike having a $4.5 billion skin market? We all know everyone in Web3 likes to use the Counter-Strike example of like, see, you know, Web3 should be a thing because look at all these skins selling for all this money. It's experienced steady growth over the years with big booms both in 2020 and then again in 2023. Over 400 million cases are opened each year, which contain new items causing the market cap to continually grow. CS2 launched in September 2023, giving more momentum to the skins market despite a brief dip. In 2023, case openings alone generated nearly $1 billion in revenue for Valve. As of today, the market cap of all items is just over $4.3 billion. I think it actually retracted a couple days after this to like 4.3, but it's around there. For reference, Immutable's valuation is currently 1.1 billion and Arbitrum's is 3.2 billion. So Counter-Strike's cosmetic market is literally larger than two of the blockchains that we have here in Web3 gaming combined. What's the word for Counter-Strike's cosmetics being valued at 4.5 billion? I'm going to Paul Bettner first.
I've been waiting to do this. The word is inevitable. Y'all, how long have we been talking about this? And it's really fun to put some numbers behind it. I don't know how many times we've said it's only going to take one hit game, one truly hit game, and we're going to be finally there. We're going to finally make Sam's dreams come true. And what is Sam even going to do actually once it's happened? Because you can't say inevitable anymore. But anyway, yeah, this is. I think for some of us in the industry, kind of knew the scale of this kind of stuff already. It's great for them to share those numbers and for that to sort of become a little more well known. It's also amazing that these are cosmetics only. This is not play. This is not pay to play or pay to earn or anything like that. This is literally just people who love that game and are willing to spend money on blingy skins so that they can feel good about playing the game all the time or just be proud of their collection or their skins. And yeah, this I love people seeing this, hearing this, and then thinking about how this kind of success will translate and even be amplified when it's on a blockchain. It's coming. It's inevitable. That's my word for it.
People have asked me many times what I will do whenever the inevitability stops being in the future and is just here. And I think that's what I'll have to tweet. I'll have to just say Web3 gaming.
I got it. How about Web3 was inevitable?
Yeah, I told you, you fuckers. Let's go to Dub.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say just drop the was, bro. It's pretty simple. But my word for this is empire. That's what CS:GO has built here. It has taken them like years and years and years to build this. This isn't something that some other. I don't even care if you're Pokemon. You're not going to replicate these numbers that CS:GO has just in a couple months from a launch. Whatever your product is, these guys have been fine tuning a community, a product. Entire ecosystem around this thing that works. I'll even challenge Paul a little bit here and say it is a bit play to earn as well. There is a lot of people, my friends included, that are strictly trying to increase their total account value so that they can go sell that on the black market someday. So like it'll be interesting how it rolls out, but for sure CS:GO has built an absolute empire and that's how they're able to do the numbers that they do.
Empire is a great word for it. Missed the order and the rest of the hands. Forgive me, guys. I'm going to Spangler and then to Peyton.
There we go. My word is I'm gonna pull a hyphen or not even, but origin story, because this is why this is why we're here. It's this I've always used, and I'm sure many of you are in the same boat as me. Whenever anybody asks me what the hell I do for a living, I say, "Oh, do you know CS:GO?" Yeah, kind of like that, but on chain. And I think it's the what's the word? It's We're looking for a killer app that replicates that CS:GO feeling and that CS:GO community. And I think it's no wonder that well, it is a wonder. It's baffling that the community has been able to grow and engage, and the Valve has been able to capitalize on it in this manner. And I think that we are looking to it's proof that we are here for the right reasons, and there are people who want to engage and want to play and want to have control over these assets and care about these things enough to make everything that we do worthwhile. So yeah, that's my word.
Peyton, what's yours?
I'm gonna cheat and pull out the Navy PMF, product market fit. I think when it comes down to like a lot of the aspects of what CS:GO 2, and I've talked to Paul as well. Whenever I was working closely with him at Thousands, was like it only takes like one game, as Paul said. But even to take it further, whatever Paul, I'm quoting you a long time ago, but like once you see a game that is equivalent to another game that people are going to say, hey, I want to play this game and it's just as fun as the other game. Let's see what tech stack actually like, wins out. And in my opinion, as a gamer, I'm going to pick the one that I have more control over my assets. And to be honest, I also think that it's product market fit, and the way that we look at Web3, I think we really like double clicked into ownership way too much and like not into identity. And I think identity for these CS:GO skins are extremely important. It's Fortnite skins. There's all these specific ones. To Paul's point, in terms of cosmetics, and I agree with you, Dub, that there is a black market for like ownership, and then there's also some gambling mechanisms within CS:GO. But we don't talk about identity at all in terms of like gamers' identities, like on chain or off chain, is like one of the most important things to them. Achievements, a whole specific thing is around them. And a lot of these people want to buy these skins because they want to flex, they want to do all these stuff, but it's not so much out of a point of like wanting to resell them. It's more of the identity that they have in CS:GO and to their friends. And so huge PMF, and definitely should be studied. But I feel like we've like beat the dead horse in terms of ownership. We should definitely be looking into more of identity stuff.
Huge PMF, massive. Koji, what's your word for the 4.5 billion CS:GO marketplace?
Uh, Unsurprising, man. The word is unsurprising, and this is just the power of unbridled fandom, right? Like, what causes people to spend money on collectibles? Okay? We see it with like baseball cards. Someone has bought, several Magic cards have sold for over $1 million. Fuck it, even a parallel card, masterpiece sold for over $1 million. So it's just like, I think that as more and more people get into these things, it's bound to happen. I mean, like you say, it is inevitable, and I think that like it really just shows you, uh, what the possibility is, what we as a space can aim for and hopefully exceed, right? Because imagine having all of that, but then not being sort of chained to a single provider, a single marketplace, whatever. Like I think it like opens up a whole new world. So yeah, I think unsurprising is my word.
Unsurprising. Knock, do you agree?
I do agree with unsurprising being a good word for this, but I'll be the downer and I'll say blinders, as in the blinders that Valve has had to had on the entirety of the CS:GO life cycle in order for the market to reach the point that it did. CS:GO is great. There are plenty of people who play the game, want to collect skins, want to flex in-game items, but let's not pretend that that's where the majority of this market cap comes from. This comes from and on the backs of a decade of illegal gambling sites targeted towards children to get them into the CS:GO box opening, area. They have a thing called float value in CS:GO, which is the wear of the skins, and skins that weren't worn in game are worth more, similar to something like a PSA graded card in Pokemon or any other card game. So this absolutely is a speculative vehicle. CoffeeZilla did a video on this, I think it was last year, where he dove into an ongoing CS:GO marketplace war between two different companies based in the Nordics that are literally getting to the point where they're like sending people to like protest out of one of the owners' homes to like intimidate them to shut down shop. This market gets as big as it does because Valve says, we don't care what happens with these assets. Do with it what you will. If you want to trade them on Valve, great. If you want to go and gamble it away, great. We're not going to get involved with a lot of this. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, right? It's the same reason why Pokemon is as hot as it is right now, because the Pokemon company prints a bunch of cards, and they don't really care if it goes to scalpers or if it goes where it really goes, whether or not it's going into the hands of fans. I think anytime you have an IP that is as strong as Counter-Strike, you're bound to have financialization around those assets if it's allowed. And in the case of Counter-Strike, it has been allowed. It's the reason why people search for float value skins of 0.00, which is the equivalent of your PSA 10. It's never been worn, and it's the reason why massive sites like CS:GO Wild, spun up by FaZe Clan about a decade ago, were the target of such controversy because it allowed for gambling of skins towards children. I think for any game or for any product to get as big as a $4.5 billion market cap, it has to be equal parts truly enthusiastic fans, people who really love the IP and care about the game, and equal parts extraction and financialization, and pretending that the CS:GO market got to where it did without a lot of the issues that we call, plagues to NFTs, I think is a little naive. Yeah, it's blinders for sure. That's how it had to happen. Valve had to kind of stay out of it and let this ecosystem develop the way that it did. But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's a great take. I'm going to go to Lems and then to Tony, but I do want to expand the conversation a little bit here. I'm also going to ask you guys over under $7 billion market cap for CSGO skins by 2030. Do we think this is going up into the right, or have we kind of hit the upper limitation of where this could go? Lems, over to you.
All right, my word is surreal because I don't know. I feel like we all know CS:GO is pretty huge, but actually seeing this number when you sent me like this the article or topic or whatever, I was like, man, I can't believe it's actually that massive. We knew it was big, but it's pretty huge. So I get why Koji's and Knock were saying unsurprising, but to me it is still a little bit surreal. I think it shows, yeah, it's like huge demand for this game that has been around for a long time, like Dub said. But one thing that got me thinking was like, is this a little bit like our low float, high FDV token launches we have? Because we know that all these skins are not being traded actively. And like they say, approximately like 80% just sit in users' inventory and never get used. So like, is it an accurate representation of the market cap? I think regardless, yes or no, it's still a really impressive number. But it was just one of those things that, I started thinking about to be the devil's advocate and the Debbie Downer here of like, is it really that massive because there's going to be not that much liquidity if people actually started to want to start selling them? But regardless of that, I still think it's going to be over by 2030 because it's continuing to grow. CS2 only came out, like less than 2 years ago, and we saw CS1 had been around for like over a decade. So I do think there's definitely still more life in the tank, and it looks like it's going to keep going up and to the right for a while.
Tony V, what's your word? And do you see this going to 7 billion by 2030?
My word is cha-ching and abso-freaking-lutely. Yeah, man, I think that this style of entertainment is only going to increase. Some of us on the panel here are friends with a guy named Mylan who runs a company called Boxed.gg. And he might be, aside from Paul, the smartest human I've ever met in my life. Dude's wild. He's like he's like a 25-year-old
I
genius.
love you too, man.
Yeah, it's fucking genius. But his whole business is this style of entertainment, if you want to call it that. People show up and they pay money to rip random packs of Pokemon cards and soon CSGO skins, or maybe now CSGO skins, in like a blind box style way digitally. I don't work for Mylan, by the way. I just like him a lot. And the data that he shares with me is that like his customers say that they feel better when they're happier when they're spending more money on his site because they truly view it as a form of entertainment. And whether or not that's like Black Mirror sick level of capitalism, it says something about the power of this model. And I only think I have a 9-year-old who gets more joy out of spending Robux than opening Christmas presents, and so I only see it increasing, this idea that digital ownership, digital items, and all of the mechanisms around getting things randomly and via games of chance are only going to increase. And I don't think it's a terrible thing. I think it's on us as parents to make sure that we aren't letting our kids become addicted to gambling. But I do think that entertainment has changed intrinsically, and the way that people consume media and also extract value from the media they're consuming is dramatically different. And I think that it's good for people of all ages to be exposed to this type of financialization. To be frank.
Very interesting take. Knock, I'm going to you. Are we going beyond 7 billion here by 2030?
I don't think so. I'm gonna go the under, but I'll say it with this caveat. I also don't think the total market cap drops all that much. I think that the market cap of CS:GO is probably going to be pretty steady for the next decade or so. I think one of the things that you're starting to find with long-standing IP is the longer that IP is there, the more financialization is associated with that IP, the more loyal people are to spending in and around that IP. So in my case, it's Pokemon TCG. I collect a whole ton of it, been collecting it my entire life. As I've become older, I'm definitely spending more, and it seems like more and more people are also doing that. I would imagine the same holds true for Counter Strike. If you've already spent thousands of dollars in your Counter Strike, inventory, you're probably going to continue to do it. But I worry, or my assumption would be that they're probably pretty close to the number of people that are willing to spend that much for this long, given that they've just seen some of their highest player counts over the course of the last 12 months. So I think it's a growing game. There's obviously a lot going on in that ecosystem, but to almost double, I think is pretty insane. A $7 billion market cap for any game asset would be absolutely ridiculous. I just don't see it happening, but I do see it staying pretty steady between that $4 and $5 billion mark.
Paul Bettner, do you?
Well, so first of all, I think it's all super cute that you guys are talking about timelines like decades when we all know that there's an AI apocalypse called the singularity that's coming probably before 2030 at this point. So like everything's going to infinity or zero or whatever. But let's pretend that that's not the case and we're, just living a normal life for the next 10 years. I think it does have a lot further to run. I remember the last time I looked at the Pokemon IP. I want to say it is the most valuable IP in the entire world, by the way. And I want to say it was like 25 billion, but that number sounds too small to me right now. So it is, especially when you have a game that has consistently been shepherded by its team to this evergreen status. It's like the way I feel about Minecraft, even though I was initially so skeptical of Microsoft acquiring that brand and taking it over. But like they have shown that they are going to take good care of it and that they're just going to allow that audience that game to find new audiences as new kids grow up and discover it for the first time. I think that's the thing we take for granted, right? Like we're all like older and we don't realize like, yeah, there are new generations discovering Counter-Strike every day for the first time. And for them, it's all new and a new opportunity for them to spend thousands of dollars on their favorite skins as well. So let's see what happens. I think if it was more of a cyclical inventory of assets, like it was easier to trade them than it is currently of having to sell an account on the black market, then I could see it, that would be a different model and maybe not. But if they continue to have it be like my skins are my skins and there's not really a way for me to take money out of that economy easily, yeah, I think it could accumulate $7 billion of revenue, no problem. The last thing I wanted to say is it's kind of like echoes what Tony was saying, really kind of, we all said this in some ways, but I think the thing we haven't experienced yet is the amplification effect of Web3 technologies applied to this level of success. And it's why I just think every time we talk about, are we there yet? Are we not there yet? It gets back to what Peyton was saying. Like, there's a very easy way to answer that question. You don't need to look at market cap. You don't need to look at anything else. If we're gauging whether Web3 or crypto gaming is there yet, just ask a simple question. Is there a game in your Steam library that you're playing more, that's a Web3 game that you're playing more in your spare time than any Web2 game? No, we're not there yet. So once that happens, and then you apply the underlying capabilities of a blockchain, of crypto, of Web3 technology, smart contracts, etc., I don't know that we even can wrap our heads around what that means. And I will say that for folks in the game industry who even are not in Web3 and are looking at this, they're wondering like, how is it that this part of the industry still seems to be succeeding, actually able to raise money, able to continue going, even despite all the insane market fluctuations and everything else? I think it's because the really smart money and the smart investors, including our own paradigm, understand this concept. They understand that really the results haven't even come in yet on this specific bet. And you just need that one game to come out and to be a hit enough game, then multiplied or amplified by these technologies, and then we'll see what happens. But I think, looking at something like the success of Counter-Strike and knowing that it is possible, obviously, for a Web3 game to eventually be that level of hit, and then thinking about what that means when amplified by the things that a blockchain adds, like I can't wait. So inevitable.
The jury is still out, says Paul Bettner. Knock has the hand up. I'll give you a quick take, then we're going to move on to Pokemon.
Yeah, just one really quick clarification here. We are talking about the market cap of existing assets, not revenue
Yes,
generated by
exactly.
Valve. I think that yeah, those are two entirely independent things. I think Valve can have a revenue of 10 or 15 billion dollars and still not have that market cap of those assets exceed 7 bill because most of the assets in CS:GO are utterly worthless. You spend $100 on a case, you get a $2 asset out. Like the math there just doesn't make sense to me. So I understand and I agree. Like CS:GO is going to continue to smash revenue every single year, I think, for the next 10 years. It just continues to get more popular. But in order for that price of these assets, not only does like the old class of assets need to maintain, and we've seen this in like comparables with Pokemon TCG, where there are massive price fluctuations with assets that are like $10,000 in 1 year and trading at like $4,400 the following year. That's going to be an issue for the overall market cap. And most of the assets that they dump in on a new basis, new skins, aren't going to be worth nearly the amount of money that people think they will be because they're newer skins. So I agree heavy, like they're going to smash revenue, but I do think market cap of the assets is different.
I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. I would rather play Candy Crush for 20 hours than CSGO for 20 hours. That's just me, though. Shout out to them for making $1 billion. My word for that one
If
would be
we had the ability to kick the host of a show off, that might happen right now. I don't know.
my word for this one would be inflated because I think it's just a bunch of shit sitting there with like a $50,000 price tag that absolutely nobody will ever buy. But it does sound sexy. 4.5 billion. I do think it's going to go up from here. We're moving on though. Big deal, little deal, no deal. Pokemon coming to Sui. There was a bunch of speculation whenever somebody uncovered Pokemon Home had a privacy policy with ties to Sui. We also, back in 2023, uncovered that they had a job listing for the Pokemon company for something that didn't necessarily sound like blockchain, but included blockchain in the description. That turned out to be actually correct. It was basically confirmed a couple of days ago that Pokemon put out announcements that you could collect medals in digital souvenirs, which could be traded with other players. They seem to be intentionally avoiding language like NFTs and digital collectibles and going with the new name, quote unquote, digital souvenirs. Some people think it's huge to see Pokemon integrating into the blockchain in some form. Others say it's a nothing burger and not much different than the secondary Counter-Strike skin market, which is why I wanted to bring that up first. Using the blockchain as a ledger for receipts on trades. Where do you sit on this big deal, little deal, or no deal for Pokemon coming into Web3 and Sui? Tony V, over to you, bud.
I am ever the optimist when I hear stuff like this, and I think it's a huge deal. I think that Nintendo is real slow moving on stuff until they're not, and so I think that you can look at what they did or didn't do with mobile games for years and years, and then over the course of a couple of years they released just a handful of bangers that are to my knowledge still making a whole bunch of money and being played by lots and lots of people. And so my hope is that we see a similar pattern here where they see some level of success, or whoever's responsible for caring about this initiative is both important and happy with the results, and we see continued expansion into the space. But I feel like it's a huge deal.
I hope you're right. Wild Paul, what do you think?
So first of all, I just want you to know, Sam, that I do hold myself back sometimes. It took everything for me to not interrupt at the end of the last segment when you said that you thought it was inflated, and so, but now I'm actually going to use that as a way to talk about what you're talking about now, but tie them together. Okay, so the reason that I'm like, oh my gosh, seriously? So that $4.5 billion, that is the majority of those people are exactly like you said, giving that money over to Counter-Strike with no expectation of return. They're not looking for their skin to get more valuable. They're not looking to cash it out in the future. They spent that $4.5 billion just because they fucking love Counter-Strike and they want that skin to show off and to feel good about this game that they love, that they now have a new collectible in. Like, isn't this what we want in the first place? So when we talk about valuations and we talk about FTVs and we get all hung up on this, and we are only looking through that lens, not only, I know we all are on both sides of this, but we tend to in Web3 look at it through the lens of That's money in, extracted value out. That's FDV. That means I can sell that right now and turn it around to a profit. But and then when we look and we're like, yeah, well, that's not true for Counter-Strike skins, then that's a negative. No, it's not. It's the biggest positive ever. The fact that $4.5 billion went into that economy with no potential of upside, like that's insane to me. And so when we look at Pokemon, it's the same thing. Any beloved IP, but especially these two that we're talking about, is going to have that feature to it that is effectively foreign to existing Web3 products. I mean, it's just so rare, which is I purchased into that product, I bought that token, I acquired that NFT, whatever it is, because I just want it. Like we can all sit here and claim that that's true for some NFTs in our collection, and maybe it is for some of you. But I've been in this space long enough. I know who we all are, and I know that the thing that is generally we're talking about when we talk about these assets that we love is specifically when we put on our Web3 gamer hat is I love the idea that this thing might appreciate in value. I mean, I might also love it because it's a cool looking picture, but I love it as an asset. I think when you take that and apply it to a project, an IP, or assets that people just inherently love anyway. It is the ultimate utility. And Pokemon comes with that automatically more than any other IP or project I can think of. So yeah, this is, this could be that moment. I don't know though, because it really depends on how much the Pokemon company leans into these things at all. They might just be using it as another buzzword or just a thing to experiment, and we might not see them trying to move the needle in Web3 at all. So the jury's out on that. But I do know that those products, when they begin to show up, that have things in them that people want, where the core utility is fun or just being a collector of a beloved IP, that's a whole nother level that we truly just actually haven't gotten to yet in this space.
Great take, Paul. I think we might be fundamentally disagreeing on the definition of that topic. I'm pretty sure that $4.5 billion was the total value of the listed assets on marketplaces, not the total amount of revenue that's ever been generated by selling skins. But everything else that you said, I agree, and I think it's spot on. Let's go to
Wow,
Koji.
I didn't even know that. That probably means that number is actually far larger than, which is, I guess, what Nock was saying earlier. Thank you for that clarification. Now I'm going to go try to figure out if I can find what the real number is or ask AI to get it for us.
Well, I can
Yeah.
tell you, Paul, that I saw in 2023 that Valve made $1 billion from selling cases alone, and that was just in 2023.
Yep.
Koji, over to you.
I couldn't unmute fast enough there. Since Sinjin's not here, I'm just gonna call you all peons and gutless wanks.
Thank
Pokemon's
you.
bad game, so I don't really care about this topic. This is terrible. No, I'm kidding. I also want to appreciate like Paul for calling everybody out there. Like even when he calls everybody out, he does it in a nice way. He's like, I know you, I see you, you motherfuckers, but he doesn't have the motherfuckers part, which I appreciate. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously a big deal. Whether or not it like turns into anything material, we'll see. But like, I bring up the Pepsi Mike's thing a lot on this show because it's like one of the most hilarious missteps in like my Web3 memory. And this could easily be that, but the fact that somebody like Nintendo is willing to take that chance with an IP like Pokemon, they weren't like, hey, let's make up a new IP, and like feed it to these Web3 idiots and see what happens, and then we'll like onboard our real shit. It's like Pokemon is like one of the most important things there is, and they know that those people have a rabid it's like rabid collectors for whatever reason, even though the game's bad. And so I think that like anyone who says anything other than big deal is crazy. Like obviously, let's wait and see what happens. And again, it could go horribly wrong, but it's a massive deal.
One way or the other, it is indeed a massive deal. And yeah, even when Paul's calling me a dumbass, he's still really nice about it. I appreciate that. Let's go over to Knock. Knock.
Oh, dude, I did not hear my name there at all. Okay. Obviously, this is a massive deal. We sort of had a sidebar about this in the Wolves and Friends chat, but I think that this is a big deal that Pokemon is willing to even look at what's going on here. I think that that is like objectively true. I agree with Koji. Anybody who thinks any different, uh, I won't be as nice as Paul. You're a fucking idiot. That being said, I also think it's borderline idiotic to think that Pokemon is going to do anything at all that jeopardizes TCG as its collectible brand and the collectible vertical that they have. Pokemon TCG is like an unlimited money printer that runs 24/7 every single day of the year for the last 25 years, and it only becomes stronger like literally every single day. The last 3 sets have become harder and harder to get. The MSRP is being like tripled now. If you're buying Japanese sets, it's spilling into Japanese and Korean and Chinese sets. It's not even just English anymore. So they have a lot to lose by putting together a product that is meant to be a collectible that competes against TCG. It's part of the reason why I think they launched Pocket, which effectively just gives people a way to, collect TCG cards, but digitally, and that's been a moneymaker for them since they've launched it. I think it's a big deal, though, that they're willing to play with this technology and get a sense for what is actually happening in blockchain. It's tied to Pokemon Home, which is a pretty big piece of the Pokemon universe if you play the games. It's part of the way that you can sort of store Pokemon in like a massive, cloud version of the PC that you have in games. It allows you to trans Pokemon from game to game, generation to generation. It is a pretty integral part of what they do at Pokemon, at least the Pokemon company from like the game side of things. And to me, that signals that they actually have some relative confidence in this implementation, and the willingness to associate the games themselves with blockchain, I think, is a massive risk that they probably don't take if they're not serious about it working out. I also think that the way that they're introducing it with badges is, pretty low risk, right? It's just a couple of, here's a few badges that'll make you feel good about some things that you did in game. And if this works out, we'll continue to expand it and find ways. But I don't think that this ever becomes a competitor to TCG. I think that there's too much of a risk there. So big deal that they came in, bigger deal that they're associating it with the actual games themselves, because I think that's their most important IP. Medium deal about the actual way that they're integrating blockchain today, but could be something pretty big in the future.
Man, it's crazy to hear any part of this could possibly be not a big deal. Like, I feel like in 2023, whenever we saw that job posting, it was like if Pokemon farted in our general direction, we would have been like, this is massive. We're all going to the moon. Buy everything. Especially Sui, because they're the chain that's related to it. Lems, I'm going to you. Then we're tagging in Peyton.
All right, I'm going to say it's a big deal now and then has the potential to turn into a massive deal, but also has the potential to turn into a little deal. Kind of depends on what their implementation looks like. We have, I don't know, it seems pretty scarce on details at this point. I like what Nock said there. Like, it's nice that they're kind of like dipping their toes in with the whole like medals side of things. I agree with the whole TCG. Like, they got to protect that market. I think this is something that's really often overlooked in Web3 as a whole, is that when you create a secondary market for things, even if you're making trading fees, you need an exponential increase in volume. Like, just for context, like if you want a 5% royalty or trading fee, you need to have 20x the volume to generate just as much money as you would by selling packs to each person individually and not letting them be able to trade them. So that's something that, it's hard to see what they would do there. Like, I don't think they're going to expect to see that kind of an increase in volume. And something Peyton mentioned earlier as well is something that I've talked about a lot, is like blockchain for player identity. And I think this is where it could be really interesting what they got with the medals. But I'm kind of surprised they're talking about them being tradable and not soul bound. Because like for me, I always think like achievements should be kind of soul bound. It's like you achieve that, and then you have other things that are like assets in the game or whatever it might be that you can trade with one another. So it'd be interesting to see how this actually looks like in a few weeks, months, whatever. And that's kind of the question I'll throw across to the panel of like, what would be a meaningful, good integration that doesn't make this just feel like a nothing burger when we look back at this in 6 to 12 months. Because we've seen, big brands come in here and then not really do a whole lot of anything. And so I really want it to be a massive deal, but I'm still like a little bit skeptical to see, just because they are such a massive brand and they don't want to hurt their own reputation. But so far, I'm still going to say it's a big deal.
Great expansion of the topic. Would love to hear what a meaningful integration might look like. Let's go over to Peyton. Then we'll circle back to Naka. Put the hand up after I mentioned Nintendo flatulating in our direction.
Yeah, a massive deal, obviously. And I just want to I put my hand up whenever Nock was talking about like these cards are very hard to obtain. Like we were, me and Blake were hosting the Thousand stream this past Saturday, and one of the ideas that we had is like, oh, let's have a Pokemon battle, right? Let's have a Pokemon battle where we open up a pack and then we fight, similar to what we did at Wolves Den. And I checked 5 stores. Blake checked 4, and they were all sold out. And I was like, what the frick? Like, what's going on here? Like, we are trying to think about a different segment. We just ended up doing another thing, but completely agree with Knock. It's honestly massive. And I think a lot of people that are not in that ecosystem don't really know how massive it is. I got to look a little bit of taste because I've only like played like Pokemon back when I was younger. It wasn't like an IP that like I really stuck with, like a lot of people that are in this specific space. But I think it's massive too. And to Lem's point, in terms of like the soulbound badges versus the tradable ones, I'm very interested to see how they implement the tech. But they're in the realm that like Eve Frontier is in, Maple Story is in, and Pokemon is in now. They can just do whatever the frick they want, right? They've been doing this for a very long time, and they're going to implement it. However, that's very unique into the ways, and that's what like I want to see is like what a big specific company that only they can do to pull off to do, right? Like Maple Story's pulling like decades of experience into like a which shout out to Avalanche in terms of like launching an AVAX L1, but also doing a whole bunch of like tokenomics is different. Their tokenomics is different from everybody that we've seen, right? And Pokemon, they're gonna just do what they freaking want, and it would be really cool, kind of like what Reddit was a few years ago. If anybody remembers, like the Reddit avatars, again, it came down to like identity and stuff too. So I'm excited to see what they implement for it, but massive deal, honestly, massive.
Man, I had a similar but different experience. Somebody highly recommended the Watchmen original like comic books. If anybody doesn't know that movie, and so I was looking for that book, and I was able to find it at a local comic book store. And I noticed as I was checking out that they had 151 packs like behind the cashier, and I was like, "Yo, I like a good dopamine hit, like just like the rest of us. Why not? Let's get a couple of packs." And they were like, they're $14 each, and I was like, "That's fucking insane, dude. That's absolutely crazy." When I was a kid, they were like $4. And I'm sure it's like aftermarket, whatever, because they can only get like 100 packs each or something. But it's incredible what they've managed to do with the aftermarket, like TCG, with these new packs. I don't know, Peyton, I
And
see what you.
I will I will add, Sam. So like my last store was like it was a Wizards Asylum. It was like a card deck specific board game shop, which love that place. Lost a lot of money there. But like I would say that, oh, like they did have a pack, but it's like, oh, like we only have like our pack that has like 20 packs. And I was like, I love Paul, but I don't love Paul that much, right? In terms of this stuff, I was like, that's
Dang,
too
man. I didn't
young.
know there was a
And then
limit. Okay.
yeah, well, Paul, it was like $250. You know what I mean? What am I
So
gonna
you're
send
a
Tony over
cheap
there?
date, dude.
But
That's
for
Daddy Paul
Uh,
saying, "Invoice me."
yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
seriously.
I know, I know,
just
I know.
bear market
I
stuff,
did
man. Just
actually
bear
ask
market
Marcel
stuff.
about it for sure, and I was like, "Nah, I'm not going to do that." But anyways, I just wanted to agree with you, Sam. It is crazy how expensive these things are.
It was wild. I was like, "Does that booster pack come with like 90 cards?" Because I'm pretty sure it's still like 6. Knock over to you, buddy.
You want to know why that pack is $14, Sam? Because people aren't buying it with no expectation of return. They're purchasing 151 at $14 a pack because they expect that pack to go up, and that's why they'll keep it sealed. It's the same reason why Scarlet and Violet base set, which is in the same series of 151, is going for $6 because there's nothing good in it, and people will rip it just to have some fun. Okay, the question was, what would a good integration look like? And I thought about this for the last couple of days. I really can only come to two conclusions that I think are exciting. The first is promo cards. having some sort of like association, whether that be through NFC chip that associates them with something on a blockchain, like an ongoing ledger that this is verified. One of the things that we're starting to see in the Pokemon TCG like hobby is there is a set of Pokemon cards from 2016 in Japan. They were released at Pokemon centers. They're called the Poncho Pikachu. It's effectively just Pikachu wearing a Rayquaza skin or a Gyarados skin or a Magikarp skin. They are insanely expensive in PSA 10s, like starting at $4,500 for the worst one. Some of them go as high as 10 grand a piece. And what you're starting to see is a lot of counterfeits flooding the market and at trade shows and things. I was at a trade show on Friday in Toronto, and there was actually cops at a booth for a guy who was selling a bunch of fake PSA 10 ponchos. So I think that that's a really interesting way. These aren't cards that are in packs. These are cards that come through some separate mechanism, right? So in the case of this, you actually had to go to the store, you had to make this purchase, they handed you a sealed promo card. For me, that makes sense. Authenticating actual like special edition cards that don't come out of packs, really interesting way to do it. Obviously, an active problem in the TCG market. It also sort of associates with the way that they're handing out these badges, which is go to a physical location, earn a badge, and that's your NFT. That's the way that they're attempting to do this with home. The second piece is I'm gonna out myself here. When I was in high school, I played I played competitive like actual like Pokemon, where you would have to go and train Pokemon. It's like a pain in the ass. You have to breed Pokemon to have certain traits and certain natures, and you have to train them a certain way so that their individual effort values are reached. It's a whole fucking thing. The point is, one of the issues that they have in the Pokemon competitive community is, you know, when you're building a team, part of the excitement about building a team is the way that you built that team. So did you raise it yourself? Did you train it yourself? Did you know, get it from somebody else? Is it out on loan? But with a lot of the duplication glitches that exist in these games, it's really difficult to verify whether or not, you know, you've actually earned that Pokemon through authentic measures. One of the things that they could do this is similar to the way we've seen some teams implement NFTs in blockchain games today, which is if it reaches a certain rarity, it gets minted. In the case of Pokemon, it could just be, hey, if you hit a level 100, it has 6 perfect IVs, you've trained it, that is now a blockchain minted asset through Pokemon Home. They've already got the infrastructure in place for this. It's just another layer of authentication. I don't see this doing anything other than solving real life issues that currently exist in the Pokemon market, which is the reason why Eve and Maple Story are so exciting, because those games aren't just those games brought to blockchain. Now we'll throw in some NFTs. They're brought to blockchain with the hope and intention to help remedy and solve issues that exist in both of those titles in traditional Web 2 markets. So if Pokemon's going to have the same success, they need to target actual issues rather than creating something, because they have a graveyard of projects which nobody asked for, nobody wanted. They delivered to us anyway, and they're all fucking dead. They're incredibly defensive with their IP, except for when it's them fucking up their IP, and then they're real loose with shitty implementations of that product. So I hope it's not that. I hope it's leveraged to actually solve issues within the current Pokemon ecosystem.
That is a great reminder how exciting MapleStory and Eve Online are as proper Web 2 integrations into Web 3. Because whenever you talk to the team or listen to them speak, they always talk about how the core game will be improved with blockchain implementation. And that's why they care so much about it. And they're also taking their time because they don't need to rush it out. People are already enjoying the Web 2 version of it that's revenue positive and all that great stuff. Let's go over to Wild Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to double down on what Nox said. I am, as we've all talked about before, not the biggest Pokemon fan. I have to out myself. And not because of the IP. I love the IP so dearly. I mean, it's a huge inspiration for Wildcard itself. But just, you know, kind of like Nox was saying, like their efforts to create wonderful games in that IP have always fallen short of what I feel like the potential is. There's been a couple of shining stars in the past in games that we've loved on prior consoles, but it still just feels like a massive missed opportunity for something that is such a beloved property in the world. But there's this, I don't know if this is a silver lining or not, but I personally would, because of that, and because it seems like maybe they don't care that much, like their digital implementations of Pokemon are never the thing that they seem to put all of their effort into. Like, I kind of wish that they would just throw caution to the wind and like basically go create a new online digital playable version of Pokemon, kind of like they're like another Hearthstone type of spin on that, that was only Web3, purely Web3. All of its internal assets were NFTs, and just see what happens. Like because it doesn't seem like anything they do can really harm the brand anyway. Like they've clearly sort of built up a resilience against that over the years. And I personally wish they would just do that. I think it would answer a lot of our questions if we saw them just like going for it and doing a fully tradable digital NFTized version of just their mainline tradable card game. But they won't. But that's kind of what I wish.
That's the next question that I actually have for you guys. And then we also have a great question from Trevor in the audience around Web3 Pokemon adaptations or swings that people are taking towards this sort of monster capturing genre. But along the lines of what Paul's talking about, I wanted to ask you guys too, over under $4.5 billion like the CSGO marketplace, if Pokemon was to properly integrate these digital collectibles, allow them to be freely tradable on an auction house like market, do we think that this would surpass it? And we had this actually a pretty lively debate about it in Wolves and Friends yesterday. I'm going to send it over to Lems first.
I feel like it's got to be over. Like, as much as Counter Strike is pretty massive and has like a huge cult following, I would say Pokemon is a hell of a lot more global and widely accessible, especially now as they have like mobile versions and that sort of thing. I feel like the collectibles there would exceed it, but maybe not like quickly. It was something like I think it was Knox said at the start, like, or maybe it was Dub saying if a new game comes out, they can't expect these kind of numbers and like a market cap that big within like a couple of months or something like that. Like CS:GO has curated this over years and years, so I do think it would take a while to grow there. So I guess depending on the timeline, but I would say over just based on the sheer size of the IP.
Knock has the hand up next. Over to you, bud.
Yeah, I'm gonna share the same opinion I shared in that chat. Way under, no fucking chance it surpasses for a couple of reasons. The biggest of which is Counter Strike is as big as it is because of 25 years of training user behavior to understand how to interact with those assets. Pokemon TCG is as big as it is because of 25 years training user behavior to how to interact with those assets and those packs and the speculation that goes within that. Pokemon, the entire TCG market is valued, depending on where you're looking, somewhere between like 12 and like $14 billion. That includes things like Magic and Pokemon, and now you're starting to see things like One Piece pop off. So there's obviously an incredible amount of value in the TCG market, but if you assume that Pokemon is half the overall size of the TCG market combined, then they're barely ahead of CS:GO as it is now. So the idea that they could introduce another speculative asset that would require training brand new user behavior and would come even close to having a similar market cap to CS:GO in the next 5 years, to me just seems unfeasible. It feels like you would have to sort of drain off some of the people who are training in or speculating on the TCG market. You're seeing it here, right? Like the market for Pokemon collectibles is a lot of the same people who are on this panel. It's a lot of the same people who operate within this ecosystem. It's why things like Courtyard are absolutely fucking exploding. And they're not exploding because it's an NFT version of a Pokemon card. They're exploding because I have a way to now offload crypto to gamble on collecting Pokemon cards. And then when I get something good, I'm going to extract the card because that's what I actually want. I want the physical thing. I think in another alternative universe where Pokemon hasn't yet introduced a collectible, absolutely it would destroy Counter-Strike. But in this universe, the one that we're all operating in, there's a multi-billion-dollar market cap for Pokemon TCG that only continues to grow. And I do not think I just can't see the business behind putting that market at risk.
Fair enough. Johnny Utah with a great comment. He says, on the topic of Pokemon cards, my kids' elementary school just sent out a newsletter to parents talking about limiting trading at school to certain days and specified times. They need adults to chaperone any trading times because the kids are absolute sharks. All the kids are bringing their binders together. Decades later, it's still hype. Thanks for sharing that, Johnny. Awesome to hear. I can't believe that 20 years later that's still happening. Like I remember that as a kid, and then the internet came along. We were like, oh, it was nice while it lasted. It's still Pokemon somehow brought it back from the dead, man. Knock, you unmuted.
Yeah, it's worse now, is what I was gonna say. Like infinitely worse than when we were kids. You used to have like scrambles when you were a kid. You'd be showing somebody your deck. They'd come up, they smack all your fucking cards out of the hand. They'd scream scramble, and people would steal your shit. But the thing is, your entire handful of cards were worth like $8. Today, every set has a card that is worth 50 to $100, and kids are pulling them at school and getting shit stolen by older kids. It's fucking 25 years later. It hasn't changed. If anything, it's gotten worse. That's another reason why I just don't see this happening.
Yikes, dude! I scramble's a new term for me. I'm glad I didn't have to live through that one personally. Let's go over to Paul Bettner, then we'll tag in Big Spang.
Okay, when I'm trying to imagine the possibility of something that doesn't exist yet and that's kind of hard to see the path to, like, well, how's it going to happen? I tend to like jump over that. This is not going to be a surprise to anyone. I tend to jump over that part where all the hard work it has to happen and all these terribly risky things have to be figured out and tried. And I go straight to the like, yeah, but imagine if that did happen, how would it feel? And is that feeling that thing that I can like imagine in my brain, is it a good feeling? Is it something that I could really imagine everyone wanting and wanting to be a part of? And when I do that exercise for here and I try to imagine exactly what you guys were just talking about, the joy that is still present that I got to see with my own kids when they first got into Pokemon just a couple of years ago was at least as much as my own joy when me and my friends first encountered it. And like nothing has changed about that. And what I also then see in their lives as kids growing up in today's world is that in any case, when they can have that thing that they're interacting with be online, be digital, be something they can share with their friends, even if they're not over at each other's houses or in the playground together, they will choose that. They will choose virtual sneakers and want money for that over real sneakers in the real world. So when I think about that, and I think, okay, so if you combine those two factors, then I get back to the word inevitable again. Like, I don't know how long it's going to take them to figure out or someone to figure out, but the future where that joy and that inherent desire to own the Pokemon cards that I care about in my collection that you guys all probably have in your closets, I think we're being old men when we're like, yeah, but that's just the physical thing. Like people wouldn't have the same kind of feeling of connection to a digital asset that is provably on a blockchain and is something they own and is an actual unique thing that like what an NFT allows a digital asset to be. I think that's just us being old. I think that in the future, a kid who, if again, there's a lot of ifs, a lot of things that a brand like Pokemon would need to make true to be in that world. But that world is definitely coming because the convenience, the connectivity, all the things that experience becoming digital add to it, they're all just better. There's no going back from that world that we're heading into where everything is that way eventually. So in my mind, for that reason, like, yeah, I don't know. It all depends on how much risk the Pokemon company is willing to take and how much they're willing to invest in this and how fast they're willing to go. And it might be that they're not the leaders, that someone else does this and actually leapfrogs them, and then they're playing catch up with some other TCG that got it right before they did in the world of NFTs and real digital assets. We'll see, or maybe they will, but somebody's going to do it. That's the completely inevitable part. And then they'll do it too because they'll either be that leader or they'll be in catching up to him.
Dude, that would make me so insanely happy to watch all of the world's biggest trading card games try to catch up to somebody that just beat them to the punch by doing it properly. Let's go over to
And
Spangler.
by the way, we've all seen that kind of thing before, haven't we?
Oh, maybe a couple of times already. Let's go over to Spangler, then to Peyton.
Okay, for risk of sounding like an idiot, can you just restate the over under again? Like, are we talking about like Pokemon collectibles generally, or can you just restate the question one more time?
Yeah, we're pegging it to 4.5 billion, which is the Counter Strike market cap. It is a little bit opaque, sort of in what exactly is enabled. I don't know that these home collectibles are going to be things that are sellable on an open market, but certainly there will be a black market for them because they're tradable. And then, of course, we're not really sure where they end and begin. Besides, right now they're trophies or whatever. But you can kind of embellish. Just tell us what you're
Yeah,
thinking, like what
yeah.
version of it would land where.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say under for a couple of reasons. Um, I've kind of been sitting in the wings just listening to all the Pokenerds go really ham on this because I am not one of them and I like learning from them. And the one thing that I really just can't get over with these home collectibles versus something like CS skin or the example Paul used of digital sneakers is that these items aren't things that you're like out and about using. Like they're not like displayed in the gameplay experience in a meaningful way. And I think that what the that's what the real value of the CS:GO skin is. Oh, not only did you just get clipped from across the map, you got clipped with a $10,000 skin. There's no way in hell you're going to come back from that. And that feeling of walking around and loading into lobbies with, for hours on hours on end is what is part of the value of these skins that we don't really talk about. What I worry about, and also CS:GO is an innately collaborative and multiplayer experience. Pokemon is as well, but in a very different way. Where you spend because that's how I've experienced Pokemon. I never got into the TCGs. I never got super into competitive. I beat the Elite Four and then I put down the game 9 times out of 10. And nobody else knew that I was lying about my level 100s and my shinies but me. And that's how I liked it because I got so much clout on the playground. It's exactly as kind of people have been saying. I just don't really see that the way that they're rolling it out now, at least how they're approaching it currently, being able to surpass what CS:GO has been building because the entire experience, the skins play into the joy of that experience in a way that these collectibles, and it seems like Pokemon is approaching these collectibles, doesn't really maximize on.
I love the idea of Lil Spang just lying about all his Pokemon, and then he's like, "Oh, sorry guys, can't bring it to school. Lost my Game Boy. Can't find it. Can't find it. Let's go to Knock and then to Lems to tie this one up."
Yeah, I risk it hogging too much, mic time because I have spent an unhealthy amount of money on Pokemon cards. I'll say this: I actually agree with everything that Paul kind of just outlined. Um, and I think one of the things that we're missing in this conversation is what Paul outlined is exactly why the CS:GO market is fundamentally different than what we're talking about with Pokemon. CSGO from the outset delivered digital assets. They gave you something, they told you this is the way that you're going to interact with them. They didn't care about how people iterated on those assets and the way that you can interact with them outside of the Valve ecosystem. They didn't have something physical. They didn't train behavior on a different class of product. And I think that that's where I struggle so much with Pokemon. Like, in order for digital collectibles for Pokemon to succeed, it fundamentally has to cannibalize the TCG market. And part of the reason why the TCG market makes sense today is because there are only so many base set packs that are unsealed. There are only so many, Machamps from a starter deck that I didn't fucking get stolen as a child or drop it into water or played with, in Pokemon game as we're trying to learn it as kids. The reason why those cards are valuable today is because they were in limited print. They've been damaged over the years. It's incredibly difficult to find and source them. And you've sort of been trained on this behavior. Buy these packs, rip them if you want to have some fun, which is what I do almost all of the time. And if you want to protect them, keep them in a box, store them away. That's no fucking fun, but that's what most people do. One thing that you mentioned in the article is 80% of skins in CS:GO never enter the game. So this idea that people are just purchasing these skins to flex on people in game is like
I
categorically
love
false,
I
right?
love the
You're
Pokemon
purchasing
analogy though
skins.
there too. I don't know what the number is, but I would be so curious to know how many Pokemon cards are bought but never played.
Oh my god,
I can tell you right now,
99%.
Paul. I can tell you right now. I just looked behind me. I have about 10,000 bulk cards that will never be played and probably will never see
How
the
do you
light
feel
of
about
day
it, man?
again.
It's great, right? It's a comfy feeling to have those sitting behind you. I'll bet.
Exactly, but this is what I'm trying to say. I think fundamentally, I agree with you. Somebody's going to bring something that leverages blockchain tech and make it so much bigger than what we're seeing out of Counter Strike and Pokemon. But they're going to be able to do so because they're building their ecosystem with that intention. They're building their ecosystem around digital collectibles that will do a whole bunch of cool shit that we haven't seen today. I don't ever expect somebody like Magic or Pokemon to go to blockchain or digital and somehow disrupt the entire business empire that they've created and now retrain user behavior and tell them that all of the physicals that you own are no longer worth anything. You have to go through this digital route. I think it will be somebody new. I think the incumbents are where they are. And if you're not intentionally building out an economy with digital in mind, it's going to be incredibly difficult to usurp something like CS:GO, which is the pinnacle of the space right now. So I don't think that these home badges even sniff $1 billion in total market cap. I think that they're much lower than that. But that doesn't mean that they're not successful. It doesn't mean that it wasn't a good integration. It doesn't mean that Pokemon's not going to do something massive long term. I just don't think it'll ever become like the ruling collectible class for that IP.
Okay, sorry to jump in, but I just wanted to say I actually really love that take. And well, first of all, it's great news for folks like us who are building next generation Pokemon games that maybe we will have to be the ones that lead the charge into that because Pokemon will need to follow as a product that didn't start there, didn't start its life in that world. And I think you're totally right, actually. Like, I think that the feeling I was describing that future Pokemon digital only child would come from them from there already being some other product or some other example of a game that was fully digital, fully NFT, and that had people feeling that love. It showed people that like actually the majority of the assets that are being acquired in this game are not being sold. People are just hanging on to them because they love them so much that they just want to own those, just like a Pokemon game. And I think as soon as those big companies see that happening, then they're going to be like, oh shit, okay, now it's time because the kids have been trained in this new behavior and they are ready to collect and own and cherish digital assets in the same way they're doing with their physical and but you're right, until that moment happens, the bigger brands and companies may not take that risk or may not take that chance and may be waiting for that to be proven by a startup.
Oh, I got to jump in here real quick. Also, sorry, because I heard Knox say it twice that they'd be cannibalizing their own collectibles. Uh, that's an insane take. Absolutely insane take because you underestimate the absolute insanity of collectors. Like it's crazy. Okay, like so I have a hobby collecting 4Ks. Anyone who follows me on this platform probably knows that. There are people who own the same film on DVD, on Blu-ray, on 4K, on Laserdisc. There are people who bought things on iTunes who now buy the vinyl, and there are people who are now collecting cassette tapes of the exact same release. So to be like, oh, you know what, like it's going to take collectors away. If anything, it's just like another thing that they can collect for the shit that they love. Like these people probably aren't just buying Pokemon cards. They probably have Funko Pops of Pikachu all over their house. They're hunting down rare figures and all this other bullshit. So like it's just one more thing to add to the quote unquote display case. I don't think that it's gonna like take away from any market that they already have.
Can I
Here's
jump in
one
as
thing
well
though, Coach.
too?
Oh man, we're all like wanting to jump in. Yeah, you go first, Peyton, and then I'll jump in.
I just wanted to kind of agree with Paul's statement as like I think we're all old. Like I think the one thing that me, Paul, and Koji and Tony see is we have kids, right? And I take Jackson to play a Target game, like because we don't want to have a Wii in the house because I've been addicted to some degree, and so like I'm being very meaningful. But like the first thing that he writes whenever it's Daddy go to school day is I want to be a video game designer, right? It's fundamentally these kids' digital world is so much fundamentally different from like RuneScape days, not like even for like our generation. Uh, like just watching Jackson and the way that he looks at stuff, like Legos, for example, he loves Legos. He loves playing Legos Clone Wars. His mom said no anymore because he keeps on shooting his sister. But that being said, that's what he wants to do, right? So like in terms of like the cross pollination of Legos, I'm pretty sure that Legos has now he's also watching Lego Star Wars on Netflix and Disney. And so like there's all kinds of things that I think that we have to take an objectively step back. And the paradigm in which that we lived in is very different. And I think the reason why me, Koji, and Paul, and probably Tony as well too, see this is because we see it every single day, and they're obsessed. Like I have to literally pull Jackson away from Target to like even play these. Like I have to talk to his mom about hopefully getting one. But like that's like what I'm talking about. So a Switch, sorry, but it is pretty crazy. I just want to kind of agree with Paul on that side of things. I think it's going to be a whole new paradigm.
I've got to just real quick. We're so far over. I'm going to sneak in a quick ad read, then we'll continue the conversation because I want to keep it on Pokemon for just a little bit longer. Hold on to your helmets. Avalanche is the king of gaming chains and the official game of gamified. It's chain of gamified. Excuse me. Join us for a shivering shootout. Try out Shatterline and Off the Grid, two of the hottest games on the coolest chain. They're conquering the cold with cutting edge technology and the community that's as frosty as it is fierce. So bundle up, bring your A game, and craft your very own L1 to service all your blockchain gaming needs. Big shout out to AVAX, man. Love having them as a partner so much. And you got to giddy up, gamers, and get ready to gallop into the Game 7 Nation. They've signed over 150 games, 30 million wallets ready to rumble with their Mega MetaMask partnership. Come join the Digital Nation and get your citizenship so you can level up your life. Thanks to Game 7 for being the official infra of Gamified. And of course, Star Atlas isn't just about spaceships and lasers. It's about building a community, a galactic civilization where players write the rules. So if you're ready to trade your boring Earth life for a cosmic adventure, join the Star Atlas fleet today. Hop in the Discord and grab a game key. Thanks to the official game of Gamified. All right, guys, we're jumping back into Pokemon. I'm going to let you guys riff on this a little bit longer. We were talking over under $4.5 billion market cap for Pokemon collectibles on the blockchain, if it was similar to what Counter-Strike has going on. And then just so people can start mulling it over, Trevor had a great question in the audience as well about if we were going to play or bet on the success of a Web3 Pokemon, which many have tried. I think he said there's 27 that he counts. Would you pick any in particular? Do you think they're all doomed to fail? Animate, Aurori, Axie Infinity, of course, Illuvium, of course, Omnia, that's not quite out yet, is a Sappy Seals game, Spellborn, which we see on the timeline a lot, Legends of Venari, Hatchlings, Kororo Beast, Pixelmon, the list goes on. We'll continue the conversation with Lems, and then Mage also joining us from the audience. Lems, over to you, bud.
All right, I'll just say, because I have someone who said over here, and I didn't like quite have a caveat in there, which this is predicated on them going like hard on digital and moving away from physical, because I'm 100% with what Knox said about cannibalizing, and what I'll push back on what you had said, Koji, on your statement about like collectibles, I think absolutely would stand true if it was just another avenue for people to buy stuff and not have the option to sell it. Because if it was digital and you can just purchase it, that's what all these other kind of formats come in. You know, when you talk about like music and movies and that kind of thing. But as soon as you add that secondary market to it, I think it totally changes the game because it can cannibalize their primary sales. And then all of a sudden, you're just getting those like marketplace fees. And that's why I mentioned like at the top of the show about you need, if you have a 5% fee on secondary trading, like you need 20x the volume to cover on the loss in primary sales. If everything was just like locked and bound, like soul bound or whatever, then I think they would like make a killing, but there wouldn't be the same market as we have with the CSGO situation. So I don't think they will actually do it. But if they went ahead and went hard on digital, I don't see how they wouldn't just I don't know, kill what Counter-Strike has done so far with 4.5 billion, because the physical market is whatever, like 15 billion, I think, for Pokemon cards. And you could think you're going to get a much deeper reach with digital and makes things more liquid. So there would be more trading happening. So I would imagine that would be a pretty sizable market. But I'm just a skeptic and think that Pokemon probably don't want to like shoot themselves in the foot, or at least risk shooting themselves in the foot by cannibalizing their primary revenue.
Man, I'm in the camp of why not both? I mean, if they just had very limited releases of online collectibles, you're telling me that that would cannibalize the market that bad? If they just said there's only 1,000 digital Charizards and there's only 3,000 digital Zapdoses or whatever, and then just kept the physical thing going, you guys really think that
Can
would
I
harm?
can I just add one thing, which is the greatest companies in the world are the ones that are actually able and willing to cannibalize their own business before a competitor comes along and does it. Okay, so we talk about Apple and
Thank
the
you.
iPhone wiping out their iPod product line, and that was the best decision they ever made. I don't think Pokemon Nintendo have the guts to do that. So I go back to I think they're going to follow, but it's just leaving open the opportunity for someone else to do that and then possibly even take that lead, as insane as that sounds.
I 1,000% agree with that take. I think it's a great one, Paul. I see Mage spamming some emojis. Mage, want to tag you in? Welcome to the panel, brother.
Just real quick, I want to say royalties, man. Let's not forget about royalties, which is something that can't be enforced with physical goods. Sorry, go ahead, Mage.
Hey everybody, really appreciate the convo. I think it's exciting, to hear Pokemon stepping into the blockchain. There's a lot of potential. I get why people are hyped. Smart, low risk move. Dip their toe in, test the waters, keep the core business intact. But we have to recognize is it's This isn't a revolution, it's an evolution and a safe one. I think you guys called that out. But let's zoom out for a second here. Magic has been around for 30 years, Poke 25 plus. These are titans in the TCG world. And we have to be honest, Magic has reached its the game has over 30 years of mechanics. Takes nearly a encyclopedia to play the game nowadays. And it's really expensive people to buy into. And now we're seeing crossovers with Lord of the Rings, Walking Dead, Transformers, retro frames, serialized foil cards, alternate arts, and bundled reprints. I mean, that's not innovation, that's monetization, and that's the textbook apex of a product life cycle. They're squeezing everything they can from the fan base to keep shareholders happy. And Pokemon, for all its hype, it actually has a different problem. Most collectors don't play the game. It's not a massive player driven game like Magic. It's hype driven, collectability driven. And we've all seen the people lining up, knocking each other over at Walmart and scalping product for 5 times resale. The collectability model works until it doesn't. Just like Magic, they're feeding their flames, but not necessarily growing the game. And that's the real kicker. Everybody wants to be the next big TCG right now. Every few months, there's another Kickstarter that's mashing together TCGs and board games into Frankenstein hybrids that are throwing pre-slabbed cards, NFTs into the mix, uncut sheets. I mean, sometimes a front man with a lot of charisma, but they end up fading out in 2 to 3 years because the gameplay isn't there. The experience doesn't hold. The research wasn't done, and it was hype before heart, and that doesn't last. And that's really one of the problems I'm trying to work on right now is building one where it's not just a copy paste of what's already out there and throwing NFTs into the mix. You know, I brought in some pro players from Magic, Pokemon, Hearthstone, and a few others. We spent 3 months putting the effort into breaking down what works, what doesn't, and refining things so that it feels fresh, competitive, and sustainable. And then we teamed up with an international award-winning team of artists to bring the thing to life. And people keep asking, "Are you doing NFTs?" And I'm like, "No, not yet. We may." And I'm strongly leaning towards we may, because too many projects, I think, rush into the blockchain for hype. We're here to build something that lasts. And the same with Kickstarter. Everyone's racing to raise, like 7 figures. They want to hit that $1 million mark on Kickstarter to will their product into existence. But without the foundation, the community, the roadmap for sustainability, it all falls apart.
Appreciate the take,
So we're
mate.
pacing ourselves.
Thanks for joining us,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, great point about Wizards of the Coast. It's like you guys will give me the Walking Dead integration of IP into Magic the Gathering before you just give me verifiably rare digital cards. That seems fucking insane to me. Knock, you were thumbs downing whenever I was saying my point about it wouldn't cannibalize them to have 1,000 digital Charizards. Tell me why.
Yeah, this is a very common knock is willing to die on this hill because this is one of the things that I know better than literally anything else is Pokemon collectibles. So I will die on this hill. I think the iPod analogy is a little incorrect for one key reason. When the iPod was phased out, it was on the back end of a 6-year tailspin. In each progressive year, it peaked in 2008 or 2009, and every year after that, they sold fewer iPods than the year prior. They also had the iPhone becoming significantly better, and it effectively just did the same thing, so they stopped it. This wasn't a let's kill a product in the name of innovation. This was a let's kill a product because something else has now taken over that product. Pokemon is not in that issue. It does not have that issue. It took Pokemon, the TCG, 25 years from 95 until 2019 to reach 30 billion cards sold. In the next 3 years, they sold an additional 15 billion, and they're now on pace between 23-24 and 24-25 to sell 30 billion cards in that 2-year stretch, which originally took them 25 years to reach that point. They are bigger than they've ever been by many orders of magnitude. This isn't an issue of we need to innovate to stay alive. This is an issue of we need to not fuck this up because we have an unlimited money printer that is growing at 25% year over year, bigger than anything else in the industry. We have never seen 2 years of growth like this ever, and the market continues to get hotter. Koji, to your point, I don't disagree that there are many different ways for people to collect. And I agree with you, Sam, that there would be some appetite for things like, hey, there's 1,000 Charizards and 1,000 Zapdos. Like, I agree with that wholeheartedly. But for those collectibles to reach $4.5 billion, which was this topic, you absolutely would need to cannibalize English Pokemon TCG cards, because in every collectible market, there is one premier asset. It is the thing that you chase. And in Pokemon, it's English TCG, and then it's Japanese TCG, and then it's Korean TCG, and now Chinese TCG is starting to take off a little bit because the prices are just getting so expensive. And then from there, it's things like plushies and collectibles and figurines and keychains and shirts and posters and all this shit. But those are like third or fourth or 10th tier collectibles. In order for anything to reach a $4.5 billion market cap, it absolutely would have to take away, at least in the short term, some of the market cap from Pokemon TCG, because that is the current tier one collectible. I think it's crazy to assume that in what took Pokemon, 30 years to develop the Pokemon TCG market into a $7 or $8 billion market cap, that it wouldn't hurt it to just all of a sudden introduce another asset that you're going to push as the premier digital asset. There's room for it. People are absolutely going to collect it, but I doubt it beats
I
it
just
out.
feel like this is the typical thing people get stuck in, which is you have a wild success. What is the only thing that could fuck it up? It's oversaturation or lack of willingness to adopt the new thing that dethrones it. And it just screams like Kodak being like, no, 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 people are only going to use film cameras for the rest of their lives. Trust us, that digital bullshit is going to be out of here in no time. And then they get completely wrecked. Not to say that that'll happen to Pokemon because they have such market dominance and such nostalgia and such brand affinity in a way that Kodak really can't because it's just a camera. But I still think, like, wouldn't you take 0.05% of your revenue or profit and just be like, let's invest in that thing that could absolutely fuck up our entire business model? It seems crazy to me.
Here's Sam, if I might just really quickly jump in. I think the fundamental difference between Pokemon Company and what we're talking about there is that those companies like Netflix, did not believe that this new technology would ever be worth their time. That is obviously not true. The thing that kicked off all of this conversation about Pokemon this week was that they are entering blockchain. They are paying attention. They are watching this technology. But it's the same thing that we talk about why you want to see a Call of Duty bring skins to blockchain just yet, is because yes, in theory this works out, but there hasn't been anybody that has even come close to sniffing Magic or sniffing even fucking One Piece from like a total sales perspective that would ever make Pokemon, at least not right now in the middle of their best 3 years of growth ever, look at blockchain and go, maybe we take a risk right now. That to me is just
Fair
insane.
take. Let's go to Dub and then to Koji.
Yeah, I'm excited to bury Nock and every other Pokemon lover on their hill here, because this is like under for sure. And like saying that Pokemon's like nostalgia forever, gonna be okay forever is just crazy, because like it's we are the generation that grew up with Ash Ketchum, and kids that are growing up now are going to ingest Pokemon and probably never even know about Ash, Misty, Brock, all that kind of shit. And like they're on a timetable where they're going to get timed out as time goes on. And yes, they're having peak right now because our generation is coming into wealth right now and having disposable income to spend and all this stuff. And they never saw their clients or their demographic of consumers able to spend like they do now, but it's very, very limited. Like I do strongly believe that Pokemon is at an apex, and that generations to come are going to be way less focused and hyped and prioritizing Pokemon over other IPs that they're digesting, because they simply didn't grow up with the way we did. Like it was literally, you got a Game Boy and you had Pokemon on it, and that was it. And everyone everywhere was doing Pokemon, and that was it. But now there's so much more. There's so much more everywhere, and like there's no way that Pokemon maintains dominance and mindshare generation over generation, because they're simply not making something cool or making something new. Like there is not going to be another awesome Ash Ketchum story or anything like that to be completely new. There's only going to be derivatives. And that's why I'm also like bearish as hell on all of the Web3 mimics of this, because it's just derivative after derivative over derivative, and no one wants to collect another random monster thing and walk through grass. Like, it's the story and the game loop and everything is getting old, and thus will just kind of decay as that decays.
For the record, Dub, I was also under.
Let's go over to
I'm still
who had the hand up. I also want to hear from people if you want to tag in on this. Is there a single pocket monster collector, whatever you want to call it, game in Web3 that is not Pokemon that you are optimistic about at this point? But Koji, whatever your hand was up for, go for it, man.
Well, a couple things. One, horrendous take by Dub. I love Dub, and I'm a Dub defender, but that was absolutely fucking horrendous. And I mean, let's go back to the kids. I don't even like Pokemon, so like I hope that it fucking dies. But like, let's go back to the having kids thing. My daughter intrinsically intrinsically loves Pikachu and whatever, but intrinsically loves things like fucking Mickey Mouse. You know, and there hasn't been like a good Mickey Mouse anything in like fucking 100 years. And still she's like, let me digest this like slop because I love the way this character looks. So I think like kids liking Pokemon are gonna be just fine. But I also wanted to say that like saying under, the reason why I'm like I'm on the fence, but the reason why I'm more in the over category is like, you know, we're talking about cannibalizing their existing collector base and blah blah blah. But what I think a lot of people aren't really factoring in is the amount of liquidity and sheer amount of fucking stupidity that exists in Web3, and they're willing to just like speculate on fucking nonsense. Like if Fartcoin can go to billions, then like there's no way that people aren't willing to just like ditch a whole fuck ton of money on something that starts to move with a Pokemon name on it, right? And it doesn't even matter. They don't even have to like Pokemon. You know, to Paul's point earlier, I see you guys. I fucking see you. You know, like you're gonna put your money in there regardless if it starts like skyrocketing up. So like, you know, it could easily go over.
Lems, whenever you look at the current state of monster collectors in Web3, are you inspired by any of them, or you think it's really just the IP driving all this?
It literally, I have your answer in 2 letters. No. Like, no one has anything remotely close that can compare. Like, it just feels like, I don't know, it's almost like PTSD at this point from 2021 and 2022. It was like, what do we get? We get, and I'm not doing this to bag on you, Koji, but TCGs, creature collectors, and battle royales. Like, there will be a couple that stand out from the crowd in these genres, but I have yet to see a creature collector that looks like it has really good staying power. There's a couple that like we might see something cool come from, like, Pixelmon. Like, I'll have some optimism that maybe they do something cool. But as it stands today, like, I don't have any high conviction in any of them sticking around long term. I said to, I think it was Trevor in the comments, like, I'd rather just go play Pal World if I'm going to play a Pokemon clone. That's not even Web3.
Yeah, I don't blame you either. Peyton, over to you.
In terms of like the traditional like creature collector game like that Pokemon is in, probably not. I think the one that obviously we all have on this panel is like Wildcard, if it becomes more of a collector specific type of specific one, which is like a TCG as well as like a MOBA in a lot of capacities. And I think that Paul's probably going to have. We haven't just seen that element yet. So like if that's what we're calling Wildcard. But in terms of like other copycats and derivative products of it, it has to be kind of what Paul is doing, right? Which is an iteration or a genre bend that is fun and it is new and perspective. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of like my specific take on it. Like, I always felt as if like a Pokemon game that has mixes like a Stardew Valley where like you're building a farm and you have to actually attract the Pokemon through your farm would be like really fun. If anybody's building that out, just let me know because that would be freaking dope.
The reason that I know the answer to this is no for me, at least personally, is because I don't even want to play Pokemon that don't just feature the original 151 Pokemon. Like, as soon as they got beyond like the first 300, I lost complete interest. So starting with a brand new game with brand new Pokemon that I don't even know, and then it all feels kind of like the RC cola of Pokemon. Your point is exactly right, Peyton. It has to genre bend. It has to iterate in a meaningful way. It can't just be like you need more of the exact same thing. Here's our spin on it because it's just gonna feel bad. Tony V.
Yeah,
Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
Pete.
I was going to add to you, Sam. Like that's the reason why we like Supervive, right? We have to plug it. If both of me and you are on Gamify, we have to plug Supervive, right? So in terms of that aspect of things, it's like a genre bend of Supervive, of a MOBA, and also a VR that is fun. And I care about those characters now. I care about Kingpin. I care about Shrike. You definitely care more about Shrike than I do. You know what I mean? In terms of that understanding of like, oh, I want to kind of know more about these characters, but it required me playing that game for 30 plus hours to start actually wanting to know actually why does Shrike do this, you know? So that kind of element is kind of what I see. But yeah, just wanted to, I saw an opportunity, Sam. I had to take it.
Yeah, Shrike Main, by the way. I also think, yeah, Wildcard being a good example of something that is genre bending and iterative. If it was League of Legends with different characters, I wouldn't care. But the fact that it's League of Legends with different characters in a battle royale, now I do care because I haven't had that experience and I can't get it elsewhere. Tony V, over to you then, Wild Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell Peyton about a game called Moonstone Island. It's Ashley, I can't remember her last name. I'm terrible, but one of the Wolves people introduced me to it. But it's exactly what you described. It's Pokemon and Stardew Valley and a little bit of Final Fantasy all mixed together. It's beautiful. I play it on my Switch. I cry sometimes. I just weep openly, but it's an amazing game.
Dude, I love you, Tony. Thank you. Thank you for Ashley. Shout out, Ashley.
Yeah, shout out Ashley Christensen, I think is her last name. She's great. Wild Paul, tagging you in.
I just, well, first I wanted to say I really appreciate the shout outs for Wildcard, and we're working really, really hard to live up to or exceed y'all's expectations. I completely agree with that take. I think, and you know, this is obviously bias and perhaps unique to my own position working on this game, but I don't think that a viable path to being a competitor to Pokemon is to just make a Pokemon clone or do what Pokemon's doing. It is such a juggernaut of beloved nostalgia that that sort of path it would never work. I mean, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh got away with it, but that was back in the day, and I just don't, you know, at this point. I think we were required, and I think anybody who wants to go into that creature summoning, creature battling kind of genre required to do something fundamentally new to even get anyone's attention. We had to, in our case, clone or it's not clone, come up with a new name for the genre because it's such a mouthful. Right now, we're calling it a CCAG, a collectible card action game, or CCAG. And Brad, the lead designer, came up with that idea. But yeah, I mean, I just agree with what you guys are saying. Like, I think that the fundamentals of the sort of power fantasy of being a creature card collector and summoner and trainer and all that kind of stuff, like that's evergreen. But the gameplay isn't necessarily, and I think that you know those up and coming brands and products that are going to have hopefully become competitors to Pokemon or just at least join the pantheon of beloved creature collecting genre, they're going to similarly have to do something new. Likewise, when it comes to the collectible aspects of Wildcard, and Peyton was, kind of guessing at some of those. I mean, he's seen some of this stuff up close. He knows some of the internal things that we've been working on. Even when it comes to that, we're trying to do something new. I don't think that you guys have heard me talk about this a bunch of times. I don't think that the straightforward approach of just I am, the collectible card that I'm playing with in the game is exactly the asset that is going to be freely tradable on an open market. I just don't I don't think that works very well when you have the sort of permissive open liquidity of something like a blockchain marketplace where it's so trivial to sell your collectibles and just creates this path to those things becoming immediate just kind of vehicles for liquidity, which isn't really what you want for collectible assets like this. And I think there's another path, and the thing that I'm most excited about is finding that other path. I think as collectors who are also web3 degens like we all are, what I tend to find it is more appealing to us is when we get to be in the position of sort of like being the source of those assets. Like, to use the Pokemon example, and I'm going to shut up because I'm going to be giving away too much alpha. I think that as a Web3 player, I would be much more interested in sort of like being one of a very small number of people that somehow owned or fractionally was a part of owning the actual Pikachu, like the one Pikachu, and that the cards were like these collectible things that people could play with and they were meant for fun. But if I wanted to come in as like a true owner in that ecosystem, I want to be the Mark Cuban of Pokemon. I want to be like, I bought literal Pikachu. He's mine. He's worth $1 zillion. I get a share of all the revenue of every Pikachu card ever made. Like, when I think about coming in as a Web3 user, that's what I get excited about. And I think that's actually the path to success, not just being like, well, let's just take this formula and make these things digital collectibles and also playable cards at the same time.
That's exactly what the Blueprint guy, or sorry, the Project O guys are doing with Blueprints, which I think is going to be really interesting to see how it
I
unfolds.
know. I wish Kevin was here. We share 100% of a vision on this particular point.
Yeah, that would be awesome to have him. We'll get him back next week. And please, for the love of God, Paul, let the marketing department take a stab because Kakag is rough. But that being said,
Cag.
You know what?
Sounds like
MMORPG
Lightning McQueen, bro. That was
MMORPG
stunning.
is fucking tough too, and
Exactly.
I've been saying it for years. So
I'm
glass
working
houses and
on it.
throwing
I'm
stones.
working on it. Just gotta go on a spirit journey, and I'll find it.
We
But
did. Dub's last attempt at that didn't work out so well, but we'll see.
yeah, Kakag is not one I want to be saying for the next 20 years if I can avoid it. Knock over to you.
Yeah, I was just reminded of something that Dub named that I won't share here. I think it's what Paul is alluding to. Yeah, maybe stay away from the spirit journey, Dub. Um, I'll say this. I don't think that there's anything right now that is particularly compelling, and I think that that's maybe equal parts that being true and equal parts me being a little ignorant of where some of these teams have been building over the course of the last 6 months. I can maybe give a little insight into what I think would be compelling creature collector. So when you're talking about Pokemon right now, all of the content that is being created pretty much anywhere is not actually core game. It's typically through what people are calling an Ironmon. So the ROM that I was alluding to playing at the beginning of the episode is a Fire Red Iron Man ROM. Effectively, the way it works is every Pokemon you encounter is entirely random. Their abilities are entirely random. Their nature is random. All of their stats are random. If your Pokemon dies, the game restarts. You've got to try and beat that game. Also, you can only have one Pokemon. That is something that people are playing because it takes an experience that you understand and fundamentally changes the way that you interact with that game. So instead of building up a team with type coverage, et cetera, you're basically just like, how do we get the strongest Pokemon possible right now? And is this Pokemon good enough to survive forever? And do I get fucked by bad luck? Like that is something that a lot of people are playing. There's a ton of content around it. I think that changing core gameplay loops are incredibly excited. You talked about how something like Supervive is compelling because it gives you an experience that you don't normally experience in League of Legends, and it's part of the reason why I love things like Earth, Ultra Rapid Fire, or some of the Nexus events that League of Legends do, and I think that they could be standalone games because it's familiar enough. It's really relatively intuitive to just jump in and understand how the game works, but with fun twists that make it feel unique and different. So Peyton and I have talked about what Tony just mentioned. There is a game that is sort of like this: have your farm, go out and capture Pokemon, do things of that nature. That's a great idea. I love that. I like challenge modes and skill modes and things of that. I like innovating on story. The first Pokemon game, you reach the third gym city, there's a ship there, you have like a little bit of a side quest where you're wandering through the ship and you never really touch upon it again. And then 2 years later, when Gold and Silver release, that story is continued and you realize that that was setting you up for something else that was going to happen in a different region within the world. They did that. It was incredible. It was probably the best game that they've ever released, and then they just completely walked away from that story. So fuck you, Pokemon. But I think you can innovate on core gameplay mechanics. I think you can innovate on storytelling. I think there's ways to make creature collector really fun that doesn't have to be the same old boring mode of Pokemon. Pokemon seems to believe that the way of making it fun is now, instead of just grass and a Pokemon appearing, there's grass and you can see the Pokemon, which I think is fucking stupidity. But there are ways to make this exciting, and I'm kind of surprised that people haven't pushed this before. So if you are a team building in Web3 and you're building a creature collector, like there's such a blue ocean for you to do something that is familiar enough that people can kind of jump into it and understand what's happening, but different enough that it feels like a brand new experience because there's like an entire generation of people who are like begging for something like that.
I was thinking at first, there's no way that a story based thing would be interesting enough in order to get people to care about monster collectors more than they care about Pokemon and just want to play Pokemon. But I do think if somebody said we're gonna do like a rated R version where the Pokemon are like slaves and it's horrifying, and also you can date your Pokemon and try to like marry them and shit. There's like a whole audience of people that would.
You should read some actual canon material about a Pokemon called
Yikes!
Typhlosion.
Hard pass. But anybody who wants to spin that up, congratulations! You just raised $20 million at a 100 mil valuation. With that being said, it's time to pick our MVPs of the panel. While Paul, I see you spamming some emotes. I'm sending it to you. Who's your MVP today?
It's Knock. It's been a while since we got to go back and forth, and I got him to agree on both. I got him to agree with some of my takes and disagree with some of my takes. Usually, it's only disagree, so I'm really proud of that. But separately from that, all of his takes were killer as usual, but especially so today. So, Knock, you get my vote.
Knock, who you got?
I'm gonna give it to Koji. Paul, to be fair, close runner-up, but I love Koji kind of coming in and telling everybody that they're fucking idiots and keeping us honest. I think sometimes we definitely go a little deep in the rabbit hole. Koji's always the one that pulls us back out, and always does so with like an actual point that you have to think to refute. So yeah, Koji's MVP
Giving
here.
Koji even more excuses to call us dumbasses is a real dangerous game you're playing there, Knock. Koji, over to you.
Oh boy. I mean, I want to give it to Knock, but like his takes were so wrong that I feel like it's like I'm lying to myself here. If I give it to him. But yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be Knock.
That was a roller coaster ride. I don't know what to do
I
with that.
mean, he's wrong. He's wrong, but he brought the energy. He's an MVP. He got me to like got my blood up a little bit. So I think that that's worthy of a vote.
Interesting. All right. Well, in the NBA, the MVP of the finals very rarely goes to the losing team, but I guess sometimes you can switch it up. Let's go to Peyton. Peyton, who you
Well,
got?
I can't vote for myself, Sam. That's the problem.
He's on the winning team. Koji was on the winning team. I also have to give it to Knock. He's the MVP season for Westbrook. Sam, because I also have to put an OKC reference in there somehow. But yeah, we're on to the semifinals. By the way, anybody wondering? Probably don't. But whatever. Yeah, Knock has my MVP. Great job, Knock. In terms of just holding your ground and dying on that hill. Yeah, I don't think you died either. I think you're still surviving. Might be bleeding out, but you're surviving.
I'll kill him eventually, but you're alive for now.
Peyton spinning up the Chet Holmgren section of the Wolf Discord as we speak. Congratulations.
Yeah, there's actually a channel for each Thunder member coming to Wolves.
Call Westbrook's just triple double. That's all you need to say. Let's go over to Dub. Dub, who you got?
Yeah, luckily I was in a club and missed most of what Knock had to spit down. So I really liked what Koji had to say, even though he broke my heart. So I'm going to give it to Koji. So, thanks for making me cry today.
It's a two-man race right now. Let's go over to Tony V, see if it stays that way.
I mean, yeah, how do I not give it to Koji after Dub just said that he made him cry? For making Dub cry, I absolutely give Koji the MVP. Also, love the sassiness. Also, I just want to, because Sam keeps calling it out, although Dub is my co-founder, he does not represent my views. Pokemon will live forever.
Wills, who you got?
Not voting for Knock during the Pokemon episode is like not voting for Koji during the parallel episode. It just can't be done. But honorable shout out to Dub for saying it how it is, because I can't remember the last time I played a good new Pokemon game, and I think that's worth saying.
Damn, fire takes Lems.
All right, it's got to be Knock, and because of how right he was with all his answers today, and willing to die on that hill, and proving how wrong Koji was.
Last but not least, Mage. Who you got for MVP today, brother? He's dead to me. Knock, you got 30 seconds.
Sorry, I had to run into this. I had to run into the store. What was the question, man?
No, it's all good. We're gonna move on. Knock, over to you. 30 seconds of FaceTime. Congratulations, another MVP for the belt. What do you want to say?
Yeah, I actually do have something to show, but first I'm going to give Dub shit. This guy clearly did not listen to anything I said, because he refuted my point of saying Pokemon would never meet CSGO with all the reasons why Pokemon will never meet CS:GO, and he thinks he won that argument while he agreed with me. Um, Magic Eden launched on Avalanche today. Super excited. This is a long time fucking coming. So go check it out. There's an open edition mint. It features Wolf, Ked, Blub, Wink, a bunch of the meme coin culture that is built within that ecosystem. We're happy to support it. Finally, I know it took way too fucking long, but we're here. So there's my actual shill for once.
God bless. Congrats to Magic Eden and AVAX. Love to see it, man. Super excited to see things just continually becoming easier on the user experience to engage with blockchain, engage with different chains, engage with different marketplaces. A step in the right direction for one of us is a step in the right direction for all of us. So thanks for doing that. And of course, Avalanche is the official chain of Gamified. It's more than just a blockchain. It's a winter wonderland of innovation. $100 million AI fund, by the way, with partnerships and gaming giants like Gunzilla, T1 Esports, Solo Leveling. Avalanche is breaking the ice and setting the standard for the future of Web3 gaming. So whether you're a seasoned pro, curious newbie, come explore the Avalanche of possibilities and discover a world where the snow never melts. And of course, calling all cosmic crusaders and spacefaring scoundrels, because Star Atlas is about to ignite the gaming galaxy with its pulse-pounding space races where velocity and valor are your keys to victory. Master maneuvers of magnificent spaceships, mine marvelous minerals, and build an empire that spans the stars. Join the Discord, get a game key, and play the preseason to prepare for a year of stellar surprises in 2025. And get ready to rumble with the gaming gatekeepers that are flipping the script and giving the power back to the players. They're the ones that are turning the metaverse into a melting pot of ideas, a crucible of creativity, and a breeding ground for innovation. They're the ones that are empowering players to take control of their digital destinies, to build their own societies, and to shape the future of gaming. So grab your gamepads and get ready to conquer the next era of gaming with Game 7, the official infrastructure of Gamified. That's going to do it for another excellent episode, number 115. Very fun, full circle moment being able to talk about Pokemon. We covered Pokemon in that job listing that was weirdly posted on LinkedIn 2 years ago. So it's incredible to see all the progress that Web3 gaming has made. Here's hoping that a rising tide does indeed lift all boats and they have a great time in Web3 gaming. Thanks to everybody that joined us in the audience and, of course, our amazing panel. We got Big Peyton Okalani Kapovani Wikalevahea from Wolf and Wolvesdale. Love you, dude. We got Koji Nagata from Parallel, the number one TCG in the world as far as blockchain is concerned. Knock from Magic Eden, of course. Wild Paul from Thousands and Wildcard. Thanks for making time for us, brother. My co-host Lems from Lizard Labs. Dub and Tony from Glitter Cloud Solutions. Big shout out to GCS. Big Spangler from AVAX. Thanks for coming as always. And Mage joining us from Mage TCG. Shout out. Of course, Icy, Doug, Hype, Dave, the right dude, Denizen, Chief, Phil, all these amazing people. Thanks, guys, for joining us for the entire 2 hours. Love you so much. We'll see you back same time, same place, 4 p.m. Eastern every single Wednesday for another excellent episode. And if you ever miss us, don't forget, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much any podcasting platform known to man. And we have a good audience out on those as well. So feel free to download and listen at your leisure. Thanks so much, guys. See you next week.